Awesome. Cool. So we are live. I'm just going to make sure it's showing up on Facebook. Yep, we're good to go.
Nice.
So welcome everybody. If you're watching, let us know, like, comment, and if you're watching the replay, let us know that as well. You can write replay. And welcome to the Redemption series. This is episode 2, and I'm really excited to have Mark Spray on because Mark is an amazing entrepreneur. He has been through so many different things in his journey of entrepreneurship, and just an amazing source of wisdom and a great presence. So thank you so much for Mark for being willing to be interviewed. And yeah, if you could introduce yourself and just let people, I know you do many things, but I guess what you do right now.
Yeah, so at the moment I'm sort of working in sort of the marketing space. So that was the outcome of that sort of journey. But over my years, probably over the last 10 years, I've sort of started multiple businesses up. Some were successful. I've managed to sell 2 of them, continue running one of them. And obviously, as I said, I went through a really interesting period where I sort of took a business up to that 7-figure mark. And it became an interesting journey over the whole 7 years to pretty much then, sort of have an exit phase and get out of it.
Yeah. And I think that, just from the wisdom that you've shared through your posts and your stories, I think it's really pivotal in entrepreneurship. Whether someone's at the 7-figure mark or they're just starting out, I think the way you approach the challenges that have arisen and overcome them along the way is huge. And so, I think in terms of where to start, I think with the posts that we've put out and the way we've communicated, it's been this precipice of what you built and then the challenges that started to arise. Are you open to starting there in terms of just letting people know what it is that you built and then sort of what happened as it went to the tippy top?
Yeah, definitely. I can sort of go through it. So originally, it sort of started that the bigger business that I'll sort of talk about was pretty much our son was diagnosed with autism when he was about 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working in the city. Did the whole thing, the whole going through the corporate thing into management. And I was constantly getting calls from the school like, "Hey, your son's got an issue. Can you come pick him up?" And it was like an hour and a half round trip to get back where we were. Didn't have many support networks, so we sort of started looking. I started looking for like, what could I create to work from pretty much home? And my wife was sort of isolated at home, dealing with the son. Go and pick him up. I was getting called from the headmaster like, "Can you just get here now?"
Yeah.
So we ended up finding this product. We're just looking for something like a gap in the market. And I've discovered these things called weighted blankets. And it was totally unrelated to what I do. So people were like surprised. They're like, so pretty much I was like, "Oh, let's get a prototype mocked up," got it done. And literally the person was like, it was a close family friend or family member. And they're
Yeah.
like, "This won't work. Like, it takes too long. Like, you're not going to," and for some reason I was a bit stubborn. I was like, "You know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to get a sewing machine." So for $100, put $100 down. So it didn't take much. And pretty much, through some marketing effort in it. And within a week, we started getting sales and it started taking off. And then, short story is pretty much within a few years, we'd pretty much started in home in a sort of a space the size of a garage, but it was in a spare room of our house, taken
Mm-hmm.
on staff, subleased, then gone to the full lease up to a size of about 10 staff and become the biggest manufacturer in Australia of these things,
Wow.
which allowed me to quit my job by about year 1. So about year 1, pretty much I was making about the same amount of money, on the side. And I had to tell them where I was working, like, "Hey, this has been great. I've been here for 15 years. Time to part ways, and I'm going to go on my own sort of path now and sort of be self-sufficient." So I sort of had sort of created something, just sort of supplement my income. And then when it got enough to the tipping scale, I then pretty much then went full time. Crazy enough, I did create a web design company at the same time, which is a bit silly. But you sort of always sort of have an entrepreneur sort of has their feet in 2 things at once
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but so that was the trajectory of how it sort of started. And then life was pretty good. Like, we pretty much started dominating the industry. We'd found a gap, found our way, and things were going swimmingly well. Like, it's like the lifestyle was pretty cool. You sort of tick that thing off. Like in the back of my mind, I wanted certain things. I wanted to hit a revenue goal, tick that off. I wanted to have
Mhm.
10 staff. Don't know why I wanted 10, but I just wanted 10. So we ticked that off.
Yeah.
I wanted a factory. So I think it was like 300 square meters, which I think is about 700 square feet or something in American.
Okay.
So tick that off, and had a bunch of stuff on the way. But yeah, that's how the sort of journey got there. It was sort of funded off the idea that I needed to create something to give me and my wife sort of a way out so we could be closer to our kids, to get to the school, to deal with issues that were arising there. And that's how it sort of was born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I think that's amazing, and especially, in the spirit of entrepreneurship of having, whatever the circumstances are, even, whether it's your child and wanting to make life really work for you, work to your advantage is choosing something that you want to create. Because I think this is an ability that we all have that we don't realize that we're always creating in some capacity. And so the fact that you were able to really see that and do that, and even though it didn't make sense to everyone else, right, the weighted blankets, that it's something that really clicked for you and you pursued that. I think that's wonderful. And so, yeah, could you share a little bit more on how you, with that business, built up to and what started to happen as that started to get bigger?
Yeah. So as it sort of got bigger, the cool thing was over that time, I'd learned to connect to people. So I was like, everyone saw me as an introvert, but obviously it sort of forced you to be an extrovert. So I'd sort of started to connect with other business owners in the local community. So they sort of saw what you were doing. And they're like, wow, overnight success. And you go, well, there was a lot of hard jacker to get there because I only see the end result. And they're like, wow, look at this
Yeah.
big place you got. So people didn't realize. They're like, oh, you've got this little small manufacturer. And then they'll come in like, holy crap, like you've got this in our town. And yeah, it sort of ended up being, this crazy thing. It was cool to have. But yeah, it goes to show you can see an opportunity. So I just layered on my marketing and my online skills and took something that wasn't sexy and appealing. Like, it was weighted blankets. So it was sewing, we had sewing machines, we had a factory. We technically created technically a sweatshop, if you think about it, but we'd use Australian workers. But yeah, and then, do you want me to go into where it started going south or?
Yeah, because I think, no matter what, everyone who has a business, there's always going to be different obstacles. And so I think just you sharing where it started to go south might give people just a bit of a heads up for maybe some things that they should themselves look out for. And then also, the way you began to navigate that might be helpful to someone that might be experiencing something similar. Yeah. So if you're open to sharing that.
Yeah, definitely. So there's always this thing in the market. Like I think, there's a big talk of recession happening and everything else. So this seems to come in fluxes. So it's always happening with businesses. So back then I would say we were going through a really rough patch in Australia. This is, before COVID hit, but there's always something happening. So that was the reality. So when I looked around, I started noticing some business owners were really starting to struggle. So that was the first heads up. Like this business owner has literally like you had some people around you and you're like it was like you're flying in a formation, like, oh, geez, he's been shot out of the sky. What's going on over there? And then another one would be like, hold a sec, I'm getting this speed wobble over here. And I was like, well, I should be a bit more shielded because we were selling Australia wide. These guys were like local businesses.
Yeah.
So I could sense something was going on in the market. Didn't think it was going to impact us as much. And then, pretty much the threat was, a competitor coming out, which a lot of people would face, a competitor coming in. And dealing with that. So the first thing was this competitor obviously saw that we were a big player. So they pretty much latched on to a part of our name, And it's great. People tell you certain things you should do afterwards. You should have a trademark in place. You should have all this done. But when you're in that thing, starting a business, you have this help where people are like, you get this help to like create your name. The government will help you to like get certain things. But then that scaling factor, you're pretty much coasting on your own.
Right.
Like, you'll discover a lot of this on your own path. And it's normally like you do this and then you figure out, oh, needed to do that, or someone will tell you. So the gates will unlock. But yeah, pretty much, we had it cashed up and that was the first speed wobble. So it was like, oh, cool, we've got a competitor. And we started getting customers like, oh, hold a sec, we've ordered this from you and it hasn't been delivered. And we're like, this isn't us. And then it started like clicking that someone had started like mimicking us a little bit. So I was like, oh, this is weird. And then when I started looking deeper into it, I was like, oh, Jesus. So then it was like the stuff. So people start telling you what you should do. Like, you need to start lawyering up. You should go after them. You know, so you have these people telling you what you should do. And it becomes a bit of a noise, like, you know, and the staff are telling you that too. Like, what are you going to do, Mark? What are you going to do? You know, so you're like, okay, let's lawyer up. Like, I don't like doing it. So I spent a bit of time, you know, getting things together, getting trademarks in place, waiting, preparing, speaking to, and this is sometimes an entrepreneur, you trust your gut a little bit. So I was like, I don't know about this. So lawyered up, took about a year to get through this process to the point where I got one shot. Let's fire this off and let's see if we can get these guys to pretty much cease and desist. And that was when I realized that we were up against a big player, really, really big player that had other products and had seen a gap in the market to pretty much bring imports in, you know, at a cheaper price, you know, but also sell at the same price point as ours. So pretty much the lawyer letter came back from their lawyers, and it was like that our lawyer was like, oh, yeah, you're playing with a big fish, Mark. This lawyer company is actually a very, very large lawyer company. Like, we are literally, yeah, what do you want to do? Like, how much do you want to throw at this? Like, you know, like, let's just, you know, and at that point I was like, okay. So, yeah. So that was the first sort of speed wobble. And then literally I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to get on with business. So at that stage there, I'd sort of sold my web design business off, I think a year before that. So I was like, I'm going to go hard to scale the crap out of this, and let's just see where it goes. So it'd been on the rise and everything else, been going pretty cool. But then obviously, trying to think what sort of caused it. I had a couple of like, an entrepreneur will normally have these like little fuel levers, like that, you know, something's going wrong. And for me, it was like, if my overdraft ever goes out to this limit, I know I'm going to get in a bit of trouble. And then if I can't make a tax payment, that's probably my alarm bell. Like, things are starting to go really south.
Right.
So yeah, and then literally that was, we sort of started, we had a really good period. Like, it was really going really good. And the first warning was, the bookkeeper's like, hey, you haven't got enough funds to pay your tax thing. Don't worry, it's fine. We'll get an extension. Don't worry, other business owners do this. This is normal. Don't panic, Mark. You're fine. So I was like, okay, cool. But deep down, I knew that was where it started going a bit south. But do you have any questions at that point?
Well, yeah, you know, it sounds like one is there was a competitor, and it wasn't just any competitor. It was a big competitor with big cash that really was able to stick things out. Like, they planned for competition. It sounds like that was their thing. And then it sounds like for you, there's an element of really wanting to see what's possible and where things could go. And when you're doing this, you're wanting to get you know, some good advice, some helpful insight. And it sounds like as people are around you, everyone's doing their best, but it sounds like there's an element of, you know, are you trusting, just for anyone listening, whether to trust yourself or just kind of trust what the person who you're trusting as an expert is saying of, oh, this happens to other business owners, and you know, these things are okay. And so you know, you're welcome to go into more. I think my follow-up question will be, where did you I guess I imagine through this you start to really get a sense of, I'm going to listen to me versus I'm going to listen to other people. I'll let you continue. That'll probably be my next question, but yeah.
That's a good, it keeps me on track, because it's just like, I'm like thinking, where am I going with this one here? But yeah, you start sort of thinking something's not right. Like, you've got these experts, and you start to realize some experts are a little bit more aligned with you, and they don't really say too much, but they've got the experience. So one of the guys, luckily I had made a friend, a really good friend that was an accountant. He was a CPA, and I really vibed with the accountant. So I really liked these guys. So he literally years back became our accountant as we grew. It was like, cool, you can take this on. So I remember sitting down in the accountant's office, and he's like looking at the figures, and he's like, Mark, something's not going right. Like, you know, increase prices, like bump it 10%. And I was like, oh, can you do that? Because I said, look, I've got a competitor. He's breathing down my thing. Like, he's bringing stuff in China, like, you know, probably a quarter of the price that we can manufacture. Like, he's like, you're going to have to like increase your price. So I know a lot of people get caught up in that. Like, you know, do I tell people? You know, but the reality was like, you can make a price change like now, and no one complains. Like, we had a lot of customers, but a lot of it was like brand new customers. So you didn't need to advertise. You needed to. So we corrected that out and it sort of fixed the cash flow a little bit. But at that point there, you could feel the burnout was starting to set in, because now you're starting to like going, who's telling me the truth? Who's on my side? And everyone's telling me what I should do, you know? So it's just like, hey, you know, you got the staff, they're coming out realizing there's something happening, like a drop in revenue. They can sense something's up, because you're just like, you're not the usual person. So it's like, hey, you know, why don't you go to the markets? Why don't you start going out and visit these people? I had an online juggernaut that was pretty much, fueling like sales. So like, if it's just like, hey, if I'm out here with you guys, there is something seriously wrong, because I need to be, you know, in the office, like trying to get stuff in.
Right.
But yeah, that was the sort of turning phase. And at that point there, my wife had said, hey, this stress levels is getting too high. Like, so I was working with my wife the whole time. And she was like, I'm out. Like, I've had enough. Like, let's get rid of it. Like, let's get rid of this thing here. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, you still have the back of your mind, like, you're an entrepreneur. I'll turn it around. I'll fight the man.
Right.
You know, I'll bring it on. So I was like, you know what? Okay, let's just put it on the market. Let's get a broker, and just see. So a lot of people like, you could sell it yourself. My reality is like, this is a big company. I haven't got the time to mess around and try and find a buyer. Like, if someone can find it, great. And the interesting thing that comes from it is your valuation. So a lot of people have got this idea, it's your business is worth millions of dollars, you're going to sell it for $1 million. It's not the reality. That's not the reality for a lot of businesses. When I got through this thing, it was like, here's the reality. A lot of business owners don't sell. And there's this perception that your business is worth $1 million or a couple of $1 million, when in reality, it's only worth your profit, like your pure profit at the end of it,
Right.
multiplied by a multiplier at the end of it based on what you've done. And then you've got to find a buyer, you know, so you've got to find someone that's willing to pay that. And your figures are going to line up. Now, luckily at the stage there, because my wife had said, I'm exiting, I couldn't manage the place. I was doing the marketing and trying to get stuff in there. And luckily at that stage there, it's funny how you'll lock onto opportunities. So I was like, I've got to find a general manager. Like, I don't care how this works. I've got to find a general manager to slide in there. The business had been valued and everything else. The broker's like, cool. It looks like we can sell this. There's this element that you guys are still in there a little bit. But I literally reached out to a friend. She had literally just walked away from her business. This is what I mean. It was like something was going wrong. And she's like, look, I've just walked away from my business, like just handed the keys in and went, see you later. Like, can't do this. And I literally said to her, I said, oh, do you have management experience? She goes, yeah, actually, yeah. I ran a team and everything else. I said, oh, come work for me. So she sort of stepped in as my wife sort of stepped out, took a back seat on it. And that sort of bought some time while the broker sort of messed around. One of the interesting things is it takes a while to sell a business. That was one thing I didn't understand, because you're like, I'll get my money and I'll get out. Like it'll only take a month. The process from start to end took about a full year, like a whole year. And that is where the burnout really started to accelerate, because once you're committed to that exit phase, you'll still have in the back of your head that you're probably going to fix this and you're going to turn it into a multi-million-dollar business. But you're now like, you've set the course. This is the exit plan. And that set a chain of events that sort of unfolded, because now I'm exiting the business, which means I'm not growing it anymore. I'm trying to sustain it.
Right.
Now I've got competition and a bunch of other stuff. And that's what I could feel like now things are starting to really, the pressure really started to pile on. And as I said, other business owners, I started seeing other ones started freaking out. So I had, during this time, I obviously had usual entrepreneur hat. I had a lot of people approach me the year before and say, hey, can you do what you did to my business, or can you teach me how you did it? So I'd taken on some marketing clients and some business coaching clients. So it's just like, so as this started to happen, as I said, the economy had started shifting. Not only did I have my business starting to get rocky, I had about 4 other clients that businesses started getting rocky. So I was like, just layer it on, Mark. Let's just add some more fuel to the fire. Let's see how much you can take.
Yeah. And so while all this is happening, that burnout is mounting in the back. Not only managing the business, getting it ready, for that transition or for that sale, right? Because there's maintaining it, and I imagine there's things that they're wanting, or you have to set up a certain way to make sure it's prepared for them. And then on top of that, not only managing other people that you're helping, there's managing family, managing that relationship, or just friendships, or those things on their own, I take it, right?
Yeah. So yeah, during that time as well, it's like when things start going wrong, you go, oh, it happens in threes or it happens in fours or whatever it is. So yeah, generally it then impacts on your family. So I think during that stage there, my son started having some real issues at school, like
Mm.
real issues. So I'm like getting like pulled everywhere. It's like, you need to get to the school now. You need to plan this. I think we'd gone through an expulsion as well. So the school just decided to unlock some funds. Let's expel him. So you need to get in front of the Department of Education to fight your cause to unlock this funding. So while we got this fire going out, I got another fire over here, another fire over here. It was brilliant. It was like, and you're just like, and during this thing, I'm like looking at other business owners that have gone under, and I kept saying to myself, at what point does a nervous breakdown happen? Like, is it today? Like, what triggers it? You start thinking, when do people have a nervous breakdown? And what is the requirement to have a nervous breakdown? Is it the easy way out? And it just never came. It was just like every day another thing added to it, and you go, well, that didn't happen today. I guess that needle, like I thought it was here, I'm now revving at max, and now I've gone past that, and like it's that is not happening. Like that's not your way out. You're gonna have to pretty much suck this up and get through this.
Mm-hmm.
I had a few friends. Well, the thing was that there's an "Are you okay" day. Over here in Australia, they have ask people, "Are you okay?" And I remember the day coming along because it was halfway through, and the business we had no one come to us to say, "Hey, I'm interested in buying it." It's like, "Hey, broker, what's going on?" Oh, we've had some interest, but nothing. I was like, this is about 6 months in. And I was like, and then "Are you okay" day came along, and I was like, oh, ask someone. And I remember sitting there going, no one even asked if I was okay. Like I was on the edge.
Yeah, and I think one of the when we had spoken before, I think you even said on the Are You Okay day, maybe there was a person or a couple people, and you're like, I'm not okay, and I think people didn't really know what to do, right? Because they
Yeah.
aren't entrepreneurs, and they aren't really equipped. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I started. I had a close friend. She had a business next door. So we're very good friends from it, but we sort of realized we're on the same path. So I was just like, we just vented between the two of us, because you
Mm.
start realizing that there's certain taboo things. Like if you're selling a business, you can't tell people you're selling the business, because obviously your staff will get concerned.
Yeah.
Then there's like that whole discussion. So you've got to keep that private. You can't tell everyone else you're selling your business anyway till it completes. So you got that stress as well. But you start end up having these things as well. Like, who do you talk to when this is going south? Like, without like feeling you're letting people down, or like whatever it is. So there's this stigma as a business owner. You just suck it up and you deal with it. Luckily, as I said, I had a close friend, Tony, and I was like, hey, and she was like, I'm going through a dark period. And she's like, oh Jesus, we're going through a dark period. And I was going, really? She goes, yeah, like we're going through a dark period as well. Like, it's this bumping and stuff stressing us out, and but no one talks about it, and there's just nowhere to talk about it.
Yeah.
And there's all the support in for staff and like normal people, business owners, there's nothing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I sort of had that venting. So it was just like, but it still kept raising in the background. It was just like halfway through the year, it was just like, okay, we got till Christmas, like our lease was due. Been there 3 years, our lease was due. So there was certain things that started stacking. So it was just like, before I was like, okay, when it sells, great. But now I had a date, and I was like, at this date here, I've got to renew the lease. Like, and I
Mm.
can't, it's just like, we're trying to get out of here. It's a 3-year lease. I can't take another one on. And then at this stage here, my wife had sort of been toying for the last couple of years, because we're a bit older. As I said, we've got, teenage kids at that stage. And my wife was like, hey, let's have a baby, let's have a kid. And we'd sort of talked about it a few times, and, said, okay, let's see. My wife was like, nah, like I'm gonna hit 40. Like I really want another kid. Like, and who are you to deny it? It's like, okay. So then it was just like, how much more can we add to this fire, Mark?
Yeah.
At this point here, I was just like, you know what? We got 3 months. Like seriously, like if you're gonna fall pregnant, like let's see what happens. 3 months. Like I'm like going, I'm under so much stress. Like this is just insanity. Like and then I think by September, October, might have been September, Shreese falls pregnant. So I'm
Wow.
like, shit. Like other people are like having like you just had this thing like older in life and everything else. You'll be harder to conceive. Stress levels, all these things are weighed against you. And here Shreese falls pregnant within like a month. I was like, okay, let's just suck this up. So yeah, obviously, at some stage, Sheree starts showing that she's pregnant, and the first question is like, I've got this fire burning over here. Now people are like, hey, so was that an accident? So I've got the judgment now starting to layer onto it as well.
Right.
So I was just like, yes, I had the fire, the trash bin, it turned into a dumpster fire. It was now spreading like a wildfire. And then, so the burnout was really, really layering on. And it got to probably the darkest point of my life, like, where it was just like, what exactly do you do? There was still no buyer. We were still like 3 months out, I think, towards the end. And wife's like, what's going on? The broker hasn't done anything. We've had no inquiries. It's 9 months in. And I remember one day it just got ridiculous, like ridiculously stressful, like the thing. And I literally just went, and I literally, it never got to, it got just ridiculous. I was like, fuck it, pretty much swore, literally just packed my stuff up in a bag, jumped in the car. Totally out of character, way, way out of character. And I literally just went driving like for an hour or something. And it's funny because you're like going, this is so out of character. Like this is so out of character. Like, what are you going to do, Mark? You're going to drive your car off a cliff. Like, what are you going to do? Like, because you have that thought, what do people do in this situation? Like when it's going so bad that you're about to lose it all. Because I was like at that situation, this stage we'd missed, I think we're in our third tax thing because it sort of snowballed. Like you pay one off and you got an installment and it becomes really, really hard to catch up. And because we're sort of in the selling mode, you can't secure funds. You can't sell off assets because it's on the asset list. You can't do anything. So you're stuck in this holding pattern. And we're sort of maxed out credit cards. We're starting to max out stuff. So the overdraft was at the limit. Credit cards were really getting up there now. And I remember just sitting down there one day and it was just like, I drove down to the water and I was just like sitting there and it was just weird. It was like 2 hours and I was like, phone hasn't rung. No one's coming. What's the plan? Like, what is the plan, Mark? And at that stage there, I always was like, I'll just turn it around. I'll turn the business around. I'll pull something like entrepreneur hat. Like I'll pivot the business. And I remember that day and I was just like, what would be the worst thing that happened? I think you got to think about this sometimes. And I thought, what would be the worst thing that happened? You just walk away. You just go to the landlord, leave the keys. You just walk away, And I thought, why would you check out this stage here? It's just a game. Like, you can create this, you created other things, you can do it again. And you always have in the back of your head, I don't know if it's an entrepreneurial trait, but cool, I'm gonna go to the edge. Like I'm right at the edge now. Like how far can I go to the edge? Like let's let's see the bounce back happen. But that day I was like, that was the first time I was 100% certain that I was out. Like December comes, and if the business hasn't sold, I literally just leave the keys in the door and I walk away from it. Like everything I've built for 7 years. And I'm fine with it. And that was the first time I was like, I think, that's it. I'm fine, and I just literally went back. And I remember sitting in the office and then sure, it's interesting how it sort of happened because that afternoon the broker phoned and he's like, cool, that buyer, we've had one buyer the whole time. I haven't told you this, but we've got one buyer that's interested. They've had 2 businesses they're looking at. They're going to buy 2. Yours is one of them. Yours is the second thought. So I was like, oh, here we go. And then literally what sort of happened from that point, was it smooth sailing from that? No, like it didn't become smooth sailing. Because then they, this was September, December, it was sort of fast approaching. And that was like an interest. It wasn't like a, yes, we're going to buy it. So this is the thing. A lot of people are like, hey, I'm going to get excited. I'm going to buy it. And pretty much, so then it took a bit of time. Like it took a bit of time to sort of get that official. I think it blew all the way out, I think, to end of November, and we still had no signing. Like we had no signing. Like that was showing indication at this stage. The broker had said, "Hey, look, out of the two businesses, the other one's fallen through." And they said that one there was a stronger case than yours. And I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Wow.
But yeah, and then yeah, so it's funny, yeah, at that stage there, you're at like, I was right at the edge, like we were maxing out. So you start like doing anything you can. So like, yeah, I've always had the spirituality and everything else, you know, like you believe in, you know, manifestation, visioning, that stuff. Like there's a point where it'll carry a certain far, but I'd gone to the extreme. I was like meditating in the morning. I was doing affirmations, which I'd never done before. I was just like, man, anything, like give me some money, you know, because it was like the bank account is like seriously running out. I had to borrow money from my mum. My worst fear was having to borrow money from the in-laws. Like that was my worst fear. The in-laws, yeah, it's a story for another day, but like borrowing money from your in-laws is something you never, ever, ever, ever want to do. And it had got to that point. Like, you know, I'm going to have to go approach them. But yeah, I don't know if you have any questions at this point.
No questions yet. I think you're doing amazing, just walking us through, you know, what the experience was, and you know what that looks like. Because I think this gives people an idea. Because I think there is, you know, an entrepreneurial tendency to almost anticipate. You know, I think of it kind of like when you see in the movies or show, like someone gambling, you know, hoping that the one payoff, you know, is just gonna occur. And I think, you know, I think that was really smart of you, and really smart to share that there, you know, it can be important sometimes to really reflect on, you know, what am I really gonna lose, or you know, if this thing does happen that I don't want to happen. Is that the worst case scenario? And it sounds like for you, there was almost like reaching such a point that it's like, actually, that's not so bad. Might actually be preferable. But still being able to start to hold that in some type of balance. So no specific question, but yeah, we can proceed with yeah, I guess what happened next.
Yeah, so this stage here, you know, Sharice's like really heavily pregnant at this stage here. So she's like, it's hitting Christmas. And that was like the phase. And yeah, it got really, really stressful. So yeah, it was like I was flying a plane at this stage here, and like you're running out of fuel, like you're getting towards the end. And I remember like we were like ringing the broker, like, what's going on? And he's going, look, we got a verbal, they have not signed anything. And I was like, and he goes, look, he goes, I'm 50-50. I don't know whether this deal's going to go through, Mark. Like, you're going to have to prep. Like, you're going to have to start prepping. So it's like you're bracing the aircraft for a crash.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, you're going to have to, like, figure this out. And my lease was due in December. So I'm like, and this is the point where the tax office came in. So literally, we had a payment, an installment due. Pretty much, it's like Christmas, you know, like Scrooge or whatever. It was like due before Christmas. And I remember my wife ringing up and saying, hey, we've almost got a buyer. Like we're almost at the line. We're almost there. Can you just delay payments by give us 2 weeks, 2 weeks window? And I remember getting off the phone in tears. And she goes, they have literally just said, you are paying that. And if you don't pay it, we're going to take it out of your bank account. We'll bankrupt you. And I was like, what? She's like, yep. She goes, they just threatened. They just like, we're going to bankrupt you if you do not pay that payment. Like there is no extension. You are not going any further. And I was like, nah, it can't be right. Like, seriously. And, you know, I was like, they've got 10 staff. You know, say that to them. So she phoned him back, and I was grabbing water. So she phoned him back and said, hey, we've got 10 staff. Like, these guys are going to be out in the street. Don't care. We're like, seriously, you don't care? These guys here are going to go on welfare if you shut the business down before we close the sale. And I spoke to my accountant. He was like, it's happening, Mark. They're literally not extending deadlines. Like, they're serious. And I said, hey, like, let's go one shot. I said, have you got anyone in the office? And he goes, look, I've got a girl. She has a tendency. She has a magic touch. Let me see if I can get her to maybe get the person who is in the happiest mood at the ATO, and maybe see if she can push the extension out for you, buy you some time, and leave it at. He goes, give me 4 hours. And I remember sitting there going, he's like, we're pretty much screwed. And she comes back. She goes, "What do you need?" And I said, "Okay, look, we need to push this tax out to this. We've got a personal tax debt. We need to push this out 2 weeks." So she comes back and she goes, "I don't know what's going on today. Literally, I'm the nicest person at the tax office. They were fine. They have extended. You've got 3 weeks, and they're like 3 weeks. That third week is not movable. You have to pay on the third week, or you're out. Like that's it. Game over." So it was, I think, January the 10th. We had to. That was the date.
Mm.
And as we approach Christmas, I'm literally running out of money at this stage here. We have still not got it. I think we're at 2 weeks out from the Christmas break. Staff are like, "Hey, we're going to get a bonus." I'm like, yeah, the bank's looking pretty empty. Not telling them that.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there. I was running big ad accounts. So we were running paid advertising. And so if guys running paid advertising will know there's a limit you can hit before they draw down. And I think at that stage there, they were drawing down 4,000 at a time. So I knew when I clicked 4,000 that they would draw 4,000 out of my account. I was running Google ads, Facebook ads, Bing ads. I was running ads everywhere. So I took these right up to the limit to within $50 of this trigger, and then I had to turn the ads off. So and go, "Please do not get to the end of the month, and please do not automatically turn my ads on, because if they draw it down, I've got no money to pay these bills." Like literally.
Wow.
And then, yeah, I think at that stage there, we had to approach the in-laws. That was my worst fear. And it was the smallest amount. I literally was like, "It's coming to Christmas. We've got no money to give the kids gifts. We've got no money. Like, we probably can't afford our food bill." I was running out of like putting fuel in the car. Like, that's how bad it got. And I remember and they were like, "Okay, you can have it." It was the smallest amount we'd asked from anyone. Like, my parents had, my mum had borrowed a bit from. I think it was $1,000 we'd asked for it. It was like, came with so many strings attached. Like, it was that's how bad the deal was. And it was like, okay, cool. We got $1,000. That will give us 2 weeks window. And then I think at that stage there, I think we'd almost got to the stage of finalizing. So the broker was like, "We're almost there. We're almost there." And we were banking on before Christmas, before we shut, the money will be in our account. Like, we'll get out of this. And then the broker came back at the last minute. He goes, "Cool, we've done it. We've still done the deal. It's the 6th of January." I was just like,
Wow.
Jesus, man. And it was like 10th, the other one was due. So they're telling us we're going to be, on our ass on the 10th. And they're like, "The 6th, by the time you get back from your leave." And at this point here, I'm going, we had a 2-week shutdown. I got no staff. I got no income for 2 weeks, and I got $1,000 left. Like that. That's it. That's all I got left. And as he said, like, things just keep stacking. Like, it's never in your favor as an entrepreneur. Like, it's just like, how much can you take? And we had to take the dog. The dog had I don't know, something happened to him, and we had to take him to the vet. So we had $1,000. We had to take the dog to the vet. And we were like, cool, $1,000 would give us enough time over 2 weeks. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. And when we took the dog to the vet, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's got an ear infection. He's got this. He needs his medicine." We're like, "Oh, cool, no problem." And we get to the front counter, and they're like, "It's $400." And I was
Wow.
like, "Great, $600 left." And yeah, so yeah, we got through. We scraped through. Literally, I found whatever I could sell, like product wise. We got through Christmas. There was light at the end of the tunnel. The 6th of January did hit. The funds, I was like pushing refresh on my bank, like refresh. And the funds hit there. So we got out in the end by the skin of our teeth. Like, that's the closest I've ever been to like going right to the edge, down to my last couple. By the time we got there, we're down to like, $50 left. Like, we'd maxed everything else. During that time, I tried to get a credit card extension. The bank had said no. People like, "Go get some credit somewhere." They'd said no, because I was in that stage of like, I wasn't in growth phase anymore. And then, yeah, so we got out of it by the skin of our teeth. One of the interesting things was, yeah, people like, "You're lucky, you got out." They didn't see that phase that happened, because I had to keep it secret, because until the sale happened, no one knew the story of what had happened. They all thought, made $1 million and that. We literally got out, paid our tax down. So the first thing was like, 7th, pay the tax, man. So a big chunk just went straight over there. Paid off, the car, so that was paid off, and walked away there with enough to sort of carry me. The interesting thing was, then obviously COVID hit. Little Ashley was born. So one of the things Sharice had sort of visioned. This is great for one of you guys that are spiritual in there. So we said to Sharice, like, "You want a baby? What do you want? Like, let's be clear on the goal." And she said, "I want a girl, blonde hair, blue eyes." And Ashley was born blue eyes, blonde hair, and it actually came perfect, exactly what Sharice wanted. And then, yeah, so the interesting thing was after that all happened, the burnout phase, what was interesting was the time to recover. That one I did not realize. Obviously, yeah, you had COVID thrown into the mix of it. You know, a new toddler, you had that dealing with the age difference. You know, your kids, you know, there's a 20-year gap between our oldest and our youngest. But literally, yeah, it's just like I didn't stop. I continued to work after that. Tried to keep it going, like doing my marketing. Looking back at reflection, I probably should have just taken a full year out. I think if you have a burnout phase and that burnout phase lasts for a period, because that burnout phase I think went for a year, I think you probably want to, on the back end of it, realize it's going to take you a while to recover. That is something I did not realize, that it had sort of, and I said you have that trailing effects of like, it's like traumatic stress syndrome or something. It's like
Right.
flashbacks, you know?
Yeah. Wow. And so that deal ended up going through, and then it sounds like, you know, what's really important is to make that time for, essentially it's like a recovery, right? I imagine your nervous system, just like your day to day, and spending time with family, and even probably relationship with business, right? Because there's something that's going well, and then things start to shift. And I imagine, you know, there's time that you want to have for reflection, or just thinking about maybe what would be different, as you take steps. Is that right?
Yeah, and I said because I was in that role of like marketing, and I said I was doing business coaching, mentoring sort of there. So I had people like that coming from in marketing, you were mentoring them. It really destabilizes you because at that point there, it's like you had this big juggernaut. What happened to it? And it really
Mhm.
shakes your confidence. Like it was really like, oh my God, look at that disaster that sort of happened. Like, you know, it was really like on that. You know, you feel like a fraud. You feel like everything else sort of just sticks in your head. Like as you're going through this, going, oh my God, you know, I can't get ads to work. You know, I can't get this to work. But the stranger thing is, people weren't phased about it. And I started reflecting back through it. And it was like the cool thing about that whole experience for me was like, you have literally now tested the boundaries of what is possible. So rather than be a success story of like, oh yeah, I built the business, it was the perfect life. We scaled, we got to a million. It was just like we went to the edge, like the bear, like to the right, to the cavern, to the edge. We were almost about to fall off it. And going, would that be a better example to lead by? And going, well, I know now the boundaries. Like I know how far you can push certain things before they break. I know, you know, there's certain things. So one of the things with clients is sort of highlighting them to that journey, that that rapid expansion is great, but also, you know, what's your end goal on this? Is your end goal? Because a lot of people, their end goal is, I'm going to sell it. That's how I'm going to make my money. And it's that realization that may not be possible, you know. So making sure you on that journey, you're taking holidays, you're paying yourself. Because yeah, a lot of people have been quite shocked and they go, oh Mark, you know, I'm interested in selling my business. And you do that thing, you go, okay, let's work out, you know, what the valuation would be. You know, let's put it 2 times, 3 times, multiplying your profit. They go, is that it? After 10 years, 7 years of my business, that is all it's worth. And you go, and yeah, so you sort of try and help people and go, just be aware, like if your sort of end game is the sellout, it may not happen at all. You know, the reason that sort of unlock for us, and again, it's pretty crazy the way it happened, but we had a buyer that had a certain requirement. They had a certain requirement. They were sort of migrating into Australia, and as part of their terms, they had to have a business that checked certain boxes, certain staff level, certain profit loss, certain, and ours were tick, 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 pure. You could say fluke, but the stars aligned, and that was it. And as I said, we only had one person reach out. But yeah, it's just like you've got to be careful not to hedge your bets. And I said, yeah, spirituality is cool. Like it does play a part in everything else, but you're going to have to go through some pain. You're going to have some action, everything else. Like, as I said, I'm a great believer in like manifesting stuff and everything else and great, you know, but as I said, I really went to the edge and that was not pushing the edge at all. It was like, you're going to roll your sleeves up. You're going to get your hands dirty. That is the only way you're going to dig yourself out of this. And some of these things are going to help, but they're not going to be the be all and end all. Like you're going to have to literally go through the fire, and that fire may last for a while. And then you look back at it, and, you know, that was a terrible point. That was the worst it's ever been in my life. But you pop out the other side. But you also, I realize now looking back at it that business owners, we don't show that face. Like you're not, you can hide it, you can mask it so well. It's so, I can normally pick it at a business owner, like they're struggling. There's something there. There's something going on, and you can really mask it. So yeah, it's just like people are not going to come to you and say there's something wrong. They're not going to, offer to help you, and you're not going to really want it either. Like, because a lot of them people are like, it's great, but they haven't experienced it. So it's just like, yeah, just be careful. Who's trying to get into your head and it really just trust your gut.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I really appreciate, your overview and the wisdom that you share in your discoveries in the process. Cause I think it's really important, especially for entrepreneurs who are trying to, forge a path, or they have certain goals, and really this balance of listening to their own gut, rather than just what they think they should do, or what someone tells them they should do. Um, let's take a look at, since then, what if you could share, I guess the obviously it's a good thing because it's propelled you in a different way, but perhaps some of what shifted since then in terms of, for you, in terms of how you, I guess, show up in business, how you serve, and let's start there.
Yeah. So what shifted is like, once you tick that off, like, I think, it's good to go there, but you realize, like, when you hit them revenue bands, like everyone says, like, you get there and it's just like, so what? Like, so what? So your life does reframe about it. So like, have I like suddenly made millions of dollars? No, but I've changed my lifestyle a lot. So yeah, making time, you have time for the kids. Um, and you realize that, hey, if I went through that and I can change things, I can sell. I went through that period. Like, I think it was like I had the fear of judgment. I was just like, well, to tick that off, like, everyone was judging me through the whole process. They judged me when we had the kid. Even when Ashley was born, we got a lot of judgment around that. So it sort of hardened me from that. And on the outside, you go, well, life is just a game. Like, you can do whatever you want. So since then, like, we decided last year towards the end, hey, what are we doing? Like, it's I can pretty much work anywhere as long as I got internet. So we just packed up and we just went, screw it. We like the other side of Australia, so we're going to go live over there for a bit. So we just set the goals again, set the time frames, sold the house again. People were like, you're crazy. Packed it up, went to the bloody side of Australia where they're going, rents are out of control. You're not going to find a place, but you set your vision, and I think it's sort of like one of the things that sort of harden you up a little bit, and you go, well, if that's possible, anything's possible. It's just a game. Like, at the end of the day, like, you got this short period where on this like rock that's going around the sun, like, why not go out there and just push the boundaries a bit more and choose how you want it to be? Like, you don't have to be that thing. Like, I think it was like that thing, like, everyone tells you 7 figures, hit the 6 figures, you got 7 figures. It's great, because you'll see a lot of people posting screenshots in the groups and everything else. And you realize, like, a lot of that's just revenue. It's not profit, one of the highlights was, I remember when I sat with my accountant, and he's like, you've got these 2 businesses, guys. This one here is doing 7 figures, and this one here is not doing that much. But you're doing a lot less work in this one here, and it's really, really profitable. So why are you going to stop doing that? And that was the eye opener. And I said, yeah, it's sort of been, picking, I think, through the whole thing, it's like the wisdom. I think sometimes you've got to really experience this. Like, you've got to experience it, like, take it to the edge. And just having, like, a big thing for me is, like, I now watch people after the experience, people that are reflecting. You're like, ask people advice, and then you start realizing, have they lived this, or is it just something they heard from someone else or read a book? Like, it's different when someone's lived it versus heard it, and that's where you've got to really sift through that thing of people that are giving you ideas and telling you things you should do. The first question I go is, great, so have you done this? And if their answer is no, then I'm normally like, okay, let's go get another point of opinion. So I'm normally looking for, little experts and stuff like that, that people have lived it. But life has changed. As I said, I want to hit some goals again now that we're sort of moved, and, you want to go get another place and do a bunch of other stuff. But it's like the money is not the be all and end all. That's the end all. You can pretty much choose what you want to create. And as I said, like, having a kid later in life, who cares? You're going to be judged no matter what you do. Like,
Yeah. And so it sounds like, there's this element of, in your discoveries, and what it sounds like is, and what you're sharing is important for them, is to really live their life, right? To explore what the edges are for them. To if they're going to do the business, just go all in on it, explore it, and really see what they're made of in the process, and that they can handle it. And that's where they're going to really get this this wisdom, and that it is a game, right? All of it. It's our own creation. Sometimes we forget that we've created it. What would you say to someone who might be experiencing something similar, where they have the whether it's 6 figures or 7 figures, and they have so much staff for these different things, and maybe they thought it was going to create a certain life or lifestyle for them, and they're realizing that it's not. What would be your recommendations for them? I guess one, in terms of how to just manage for themselves what's going on, and then two, obviously I know it's specific, but do you have any recommendations of what they should look for, who to reach out to in terms of receiving support?
Yeah. So yeah, staff is an interesting conversation. Like, yeah, it's they add a lot to your stress. So yeah, I found when I got to the 1 to 5, life was pretty good. And as soon as you got to the 5 and you start going to 10, you're going to have to put some sort of management in. Either you're going to do it, and that's where the stress came in. So I said, that's what burned my wife out. I wasn't going to do it because literally it's like, these are the figures. I need to hit these. I can't understand why that person's not going fast enough. So literally sometimes it's like, find a manager to slide in if you have to, and make that work. Like when I did that, the accountant was like, I don't think you can afford this. You're going to have to make it work. Like seriously, you're going to have to slide a manager. If you've got over 5 staff, it becomes really, really hard. And you're going to have to, have that, get it, pretty much take that stress on. Because you've got tough conversations, like you're juggling financials, you're trying to do sales, you're trying to do that. And you don't have this thing where you're going, oh God, they're coming in for a pay rise. They're coming in asking for, here's a perfect example, and you guys will have the same if they got staff. You go out and you treat yourself to a new car, or you decide to put a pool in your house. You've done it really, really tough for 4 or 5 years, and you decide to treat yourself. The staff, as soon as they see that, they're lining up at your door asking for a pay rise because you're doing it really good. So they don't see that the bad and the good times and stuff like that. So having someone that's sort of on your side, sometimes connecting, and it may not be in real life. Like if you can't connect with someone in real life. So luckily I had been part of a networking group, and from that I'd formed like five good friendships from it. One really tight one that was someone like never really picked. And don't ever think that the business person has to be aligned to your niche. I've got good friends that are, glass company, binge eating coach, and they don't have to be the same sex. Most of like female, I've got male friends and everything like that. They don't have to be in the same business as you, but they're gonna have the same problems. So one of our big highlights was literally, as I went through this, every business owner goes through the same stuff. And it may be they've got a bakery, they've got whatever it is. They're going to have the same issues as you. So you really need to have someone to compare your notes. So it might be you reach out online and you connect, or you're vibing with someone and you have that conversation and you go, hey, and you jokingly say, hey, I've just hired a staff member and I just bought a new car and my staff have turned against me. And then you'll see it unlock. You need to, I think it's the business owner. You need to have that thing because you're not too sure. You're not too sure what to do. There's certain things that I can say to another business owner, which will be fine. But if I said it to a staff, it may be taken the wrong way. How dare you say that, or whatever it is? So you need to find a business owner that, and you'll find that we're just so alone. That's the thing. So find someone that you can connect to. And even if it's just venting, like, hey, oh my God, I can't believe, that this happened. That will sometimes alleviate the stress. You're not going to get probably answers from it. Like, because normally one of the things is going to get this thing where you're going to ask people, and they're going to tell you like what they think you should do or what you think. So sometimes it's more just like, hey, I just need to tell someone this crazy thing that happened. And that's enough to get it off my chest.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Jesus. And they go, oh, God, that was me last week. And this is the funniest thing. As I was going through these phases, I don't know whether it's cyclical or whatever it is with business owners, like the phase in the moon. But as I was going through this, I could guarantee another friend was going through it. And it was good to go, oh my God, if I'm going through it, I'm not the only crazy one. But sometimes it could be, look at your business owner friends and that, and maybe they're too early in the journey. You need to find someone a little bit further along. I think that the thing with me, I just found someone that was on the same path as me, and that's where I keep going now. So even when I'm doing what I'm doing now, I still keep in contact with people who are on the same journey, and at the same level as where I am, and that way I can compare notes. Because yeah, even now I compare notes with a guy. He's down at Sydney from me. We compare notes, we joke around and everything else, but we can have a conversation between business owners that you can't put in a public forum. We can't, and that was a big help. Like just having someone going, shit, I'm not going insane. This happens to other people, and literally that was the common theme. Like we all go through this, just different phases. And yeah, unfortunately, you're pretty much on your own. Like that's the thing. You're going to dig yourself out. You're the entrepreneur who created it. You're the entrepreneur who's going to get you out of it. Like no one's going to come in and sort of bail you out with their super, and you're not really going to want it. Like that's the thing. Like what are you expecting if you're thinking that someone's going to come and help you out? You wouldn't like it. Like, you know, if someone came in and said, I've got a magic wand, Mark, and I'm going to sort out all these problems, what kind of story would that have been at the end? Like, oh yeah, I just this guy came in and he fixed it all up and everything was good. I'd rather have the story of like going to the edge, like, you know, and yeah, it was shit. It was pretty much, yeah, crap, really bad. That was the lowest I've ever been in my life. But yeah, it's just like, if you think 3 bad things are going to happen, I can guarantee 5 or 10 things will keep happening. If you keep looking for them, they'll just keep layering on. As I said, the bin fire turned into a dumpster fire, turned into a truck fire, turned into a wildfire in the end. Yeah. But there's a point where you just go, just get on. Let's plan the exit out and just set your date and just decide what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mark. I think, you know, this is amazing, and it sounds like really they need to, you know, be on their own team and also connect with people, business owners who are, you know, going through similar things or have been through it before, so they don't feel crazy, so they realize they're not alone, and also to make sure that they have the necessary support to help manage and take things off their plate so they can direct their time to what's necessary. And I think you've created, you know, just a wonderful next, I was about to say next phase, but I think phases where even though it was a painful time and a challenging time, you're really a reflection that just as you created the business and just as part of that creation was some of the challenges, you can always create what the next thing is. And yeah, you know, you've done that and you continue to move into you know, the next vision. So thank you so much for, you know, sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And so people know, could you share where people could find you?
I'm pretty easy to find. Obviously my name, even though it seems common, isn't very common. There's not many Mark Sprays out there. But yeah, if you sort of search Mark Spray on Facebook, you'll see my face. Add me as a friend. Instagram, I think I've got an account over there. I think I just share stuff across. But yeah, Facebook is pretty much where it is. If you want to find me, just add me as a friend on Facebook. That's pretty much where most of my stuff and my crazy ideas sort of just spill out. I like to just take one platform, not overcomplicate it. And as a friend, like just as normal, we're friends. So yeah, no hiding behind a page or anything like that. So yeah, if you just want to connect, just find Mark Spray, purple and orange background. There's my ugly mug, and yeah, that's me.
Cool, perfect. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for listening. And you know, feel free to share. What did you get out of this episode? What wisdom stood out to you? Is there anything that really shifted the way that you looked at something that you're experiencing? And let us know that you watched, and feel free to ask any questions. Thank you, and appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.